what he was. He wasn't actually a Unitarian Universalist rapist, so really, I mean, he wasn't actually a Unitarian Universalist minister, excuse me for that misspeaking, as it were. No, he was a Unitarian Universalist rapist and pedophile. He just wasn't a Unitarian Universalist minister. So I really have to wonder, you know, how much homework the UUA leaders who hired Stikeman Elliott barristers and solicitors, litigation lawyer, Maitre Marc-André Coulombe, to falsely accuse me of the archaic crime of blasphemous libel on the unfounded basis that I have made unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the Unitarian Universalist Association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape actually did. Because had they done their homework in terms of the blog posts in question, although they were never actually identified by Maitre Coulombe, in spite of my repeated demands that he clearly identify exactly which blog posts he was talking about so I could go and read them and determine for myself whether or not they were unfounded and vicious, as he claimed they were. Nonetheless, you know, these UUA leaders should have known perfectly well that Richard Buell was not a Unitarian Universalist minister, and they should have known also that other than him I had not spoken about any Unitarian Universalist pedophiles up to that point in time, which doesn't mean to say that I couldn't have, I just hadn't. So, hey John. You can talk to me. If it's an apology, I'll accept it, but I'm not taking down the video.
It's something important. Maybe not to you, but it's important to me. I behaved very, very badly.
I know, yeah.
You know that. Of course you know that. This is my Darth Vader hat.
It's always good to inject a little bit of humor into the situation.
Well, I'll tell you, what was particularly painful for me was that I violated our own central Unitarian principles.
Exactly, yes, you did. Yeah.
It's supposed to be respectful of all people and tolerant of other people's beliefs.
Well, up to a point.
We can
debate this, because actually this is an interesting point. The first principle says that Unitarian Universalists affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person.
I said that in a very...
No, but what I'm getting at is it does not mean that Unitarian Universalists respect everything a person says or does. It just says that
the person.
Right.
That's different from what people... I'm talking
Right.
the person. I'm talking about...
Right.
People have different views. My brother and I disagree about politics
Right.
horribly.
Right.
But I love my brother.
Right.
So it's not everything they say, but
Right.
it's respect for the person.
Right.
Respect for that different people have different views.
Right.
And that's what I mess up on.
Right.
But in addition to that, it was just plain unpleasant. What set me off was the business that this wasn't a church event on Friday night.
I know what set you off.
And it wasn't. The church didn't benefit from this at all.
It wasn't about the church. I told you, it's about the
building.
public.
It's about our building. You hate our building.
No, you see, you don't understand. I am protesting. This is what is known as a peaceful public protest. In other words, it's not directed only at church members. Yes, it is directed at you and other church members. Yeah. And let's face it, actually, as far as that goes, being a music concert, it would likely have drawn to the church more members than your typical Sunday service, members who don't typically come to the church. So that was one of the reasons I came, was because there actually would be a certain number of Unitarian Universalists coming to the church who would be coming to that concert, who might not show up at Sunday services and see my... That's one reason. The other reason, which I'm getting to, which is the more important one, is that I am protesting so the public knows what's going on. This is what the whole meaning of public protest goes. And that's what I try to impress upon you, is that I'm not just protesting so that you people see my picket signs. I want the public to see this. So you didn't seem to get that part.
The only people I saw, there were either regular members, or people who'd never been to only came for the concert. So I think we're wasting your time. But that's
believe me.
It's up to you to decide. No, Robin, that's you.
Exactly. If you respect my...
No, that's up to you to decide.
Exactly.
But it was a person who had never even been in the church before,
right.
who mentioned,
right.
the only way I knew you were out here,
right.
because she came in and she said, what's this strange thing going on in front of church? And of
right.
course I knew who it was.
Right.
And listen, I behaved very badly. That's not the only time I find.
Well, at least, you're doing one thing right, which is you're at least explaining yourself.
Well,
and you're at least apologizing, more or less. So I don't think you quite got to that yet today, but see, what's one of my points is that you're actually doing right now what this church needs to do. This church needs to do what you're doing now. And maybe you are the perfect person to tell them, because you're actually doing it. You're saying I violated you're saying you did it. Well, guess what? This church as an institution, the leadership of this church as Unitarian Universalist, and in fact the whole congregation that has ignored this protest and has chosen not to deal with the reasons, they have broken every single one, or at least the vast majority of the 7 principles. They have not respected. When a person walks by my protest and pretends I'm not here, pretends I have nothing valid to say, that there's no validity whatsoever to what's on my picket signs, that is not respecting my inherent worth and dignity. That is not living up to the 4th principle, which calls for a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. How many members of this church have actually looked into a free and genuinely responsible search for the truth and meaning of what's on these picket signs? Very few. And that brings us to the 2nd principle, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. As I'm sure you're aware, when you go to a court of law to obtain justice, and you're a witness, you are sworn to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So my point here is that justice, real justice, relies on getting to the truth. And this church has made absolutely no effort to get to the truth of why I am out here protesting. And so what I'm saying is that I'm just trying to explain to you why I'm doing this and what I'm doing. And I'm actually thanking you for coming to me very promptly. Because see, I have a policy. My own personal policy regarding apologies is if somebody does something bad, but they come to me soon afterwards, or even, sometime afterwards, if they come to me without any pressure on my part and they say, I'm sorry, I did something wrong, I accept the apology and I forgive them. So you are hereby officially forgiven. But my point is, this church has to apologize to me. So maybe you're the guy to go in there and talk to Reverend Diane Rollert and say, I just apologized to, well, maybe you haven't quite, as I said, I haven't actually heard an actual apology yet, but...
I'll get there.
Yeah, I know, exactly, I figure you will, but what I'm saying, you haven't actually quite got to it, but my point is Reverend Diane Rollert, the leadership of the church, and the congregation as a whole need to apologize to me for doing pretty much, they don't do it quite the same way you did it last night, but they've done the same thing. They have not respected my inherent worth and dignity. They have not lived up to the 2nd principle, which calls for justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. They have not engaged in a free and responsible search for the truth and meaning of why I'm protesting. So once the church, and that's what I was trying to say to you that night, 2 nights ago. I was saying, if you don't want to see these picket signs,
I was on another wavelength.
No, I know that. I understand that. But what I'm getting at is that, I know you don't want to see these picket signs, and I'm sure a lot of other church members don't. And as I said to you Friday, I've actually told the leadership many times that I'm prepared to suspend the protest indefinitely for a minimum of 2 months if they agree to enter into dialogue with me towards the end of resolving the conflict. But they refuse to do that. I'm willing to talk to them. They're not willing to talk to me. So people like you, if you don't want to see these picket signs, have to persuade the leadership that they have to talk to me to resolve the conflict, so these picket signs aren't here anymore. Now, if you want to deliver your apology.
I do. That's what I came here to do.
Right. No, I understand that.
I most humbly ask for your forgiveness.
You are forgiven, but I do want to make it clear to you that incident is part of the history of this church.
No, Robin, it's me.
No, it's you, but it's part of the church too.
I'm almost 80.
Right.
And
But it's part of the history of the church.
No, it's a history of me as a person. Don't blame the whole church.
I'm not blaming the whole church, but what I'm saying is what you do as a person, as a Montreal Unitarian, is part of the history
but
of...
I fully agree. I violated the principles
Right,
of the way I
right,
codified
right.
it. So
Yeah, well, that's what this
it's really
protest
not
is all
fair.
about.
It's really not fair for you to focus on one person who, you know, people go to the Catholic Church every week and
I'm
they
focusing on
confess their sins.
how am I focusing on
They
one
confess
person?
their sins, right?
Right,
So they
right.
sin. They know they
That's
sin
one
every
thing. That's
week.
one thing this church should do. That's one of the things I've actually said. Because actually, no, this is
Everybody sins.
no,
right?
yeah,
Everybody
absolutely,
sins.
absolutely. But what I'm getting at is one of the problems with Unitarian Universalists in general, I think, based on my experience, is they have like some kind of like allergy against confessing their sins. You're doing it, but believe me, you know, that's what I've actually used, because like you said, it's not just the Catholics, the Anglican Church, various churches, they go through that whole thing of confessing to their sins, not only of commission, not only in terms of what they did, but also what they failed to do. And that's essentially what I'm asking the church as an institution to do. I'm asking the Unitarian Church of Montreal, I'm asking the UUA to confess to their sins of commission. In other words, confess to the things you actually did that are wrong, and then also confess to your sins of omission, i.e. the negligence, the complicity, and so on in failing to deal with the things you did wrong for now 18 years.
Listen, I've got to go in.
Anyway, you
Listen,
go. Thanks for your apology.
We've never been properly
Right.
introduced. I'm John
Right.
Daly. You're
John, I know your first
You're
name.
Robin
Edgar.
Edgar.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
Robin.
Thanks for your apology, and
you-
it's
see you
accepted, and you're forgiven.
Thank you very much. See you next time.
Right. Okay. Bye-bye. Well, that was an interesting little conversation. And yes, we have all of it. 29 minutes. So this, I think, is going on YouTube, because this was John from Friday night, who interfered with my protest in a way that, as he agrees, totally violates Unitarian Universalist principles and ideals, or at least some of them. And, you know, here it is, Sunday, 2 days later, and he comes and properly apologizes, which is more than can be said for Reverend Ray Drennan, Frank Green, John Inder, numerous other Unitarian Universalists, the Unitarian Church of Montreal as an institution, and the UUA,